I learned that I was white at the age of 19. No, don't get me wrong. I grew up in a house that had plenty of mirrors, so I knew that I was white, but I didn't know why that mattered until I was 19. See, I grew up in a town called Sayville, New York, voted the friendliest town in America in 1994. But here's the thing. If you ever saw 5 black people walking together in Sayville, New York, you would assume it was a movement. Because that just wasn't the demographics of our town. Our town was egregiously white. And now you can't help where you grew up, right? So this isn't me crapping on my hometown. This is the town where I had a really great upbringing, and I'm very grateful for my parents for raising me there. And I had a great schooling system, and I'm very fortunate, very privileged. But here's the thing is that I didn't learn that I was white until I got to college, or at least why that mattered until I got to college. Because if you had asked me how I identify as a human in the world, how do you identify? If you were to ask me that in high school, I would have told you, well, I'm a thespian. I love cars. I'm a golfer. And what else? I'm funny. I'm a funny man. And I like audio speakers. I wouldn't have told you, oh yeah, I'm white, I'm straight, I'm male, I come from a household of more than enough, and right, like I wouldn't have rattled those things off because the fact of the matter is I never needed to think about those things. Even today, I don't need to think about those things because that's the beauty of privilege. Privilege means you don't have to think and you just get to exist. You can just show up as a golfer. You can show up as a thespian. You can lead with those things. You don't have to lead with your sexual identity, with your skin color. You don't have to lead with the fact that you are a woman. None of those kind of things. Privilege just allows you to just show up and just be like, hey, I'm at the party. So it's crazy to me because when I was 19, I became a student leader on my college campus, and fortunately they put us through some diversity training, some social justice training, and I'm really grateful for that because that is when the mirror got held up to me and I truly decided to see what was there. Because when I was younger, I was taught a whole bunch about various incidents in history, right? I was taught about the slave trade from Africa. I was taught about the civil rights movement. I was taught about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, right? And I heard W.E.B. Du Bois' name once or twice in the history book that decided to teach me history in its specific way, in its specific lens. But it was when I was 19 and I started getting put through some of these trainings that I realized that I was taught an abridged version of that curriculum. I was taught the version of history that wouldn't make me feel bad about myself. Right? I was taught the version of history that was diluted down because it turns out, I grew up on Long Island in New York, it turns out that Long Island was one of the biggest hubs for the Ku Klux Klan in the world. That was never taught to me. I learned that in my mid-20s. Where was that piece of information? I wasn't taught about the white flight out of Levittown until college. Where was that piece of information growing up? We were taught about this piece of history like it was in the past. We weren't taught about it like it was currently happening. And so I'm grateful for those moments where I learned, where I had to look in the mirror, where I had the privilege of hearing stories of difference. But it's hard to hear stories of difference because they contradict your comfort. Those are the exact moments, though, that we need to listen. That's why a couple days ago, Tina and I and our friend Betsy went and marched in Minneapolis. We marched in Minneapolis and we were there proudly in that protest. And we were there saying, say his name, George Floyd. Say his name, George Floyd. But we weren't there to shout. Really what we were there to do was listen. Listen to stories about what things we don't know about a lifestyle, about a community, about a section of this country that grew up different than I did. So yeah, I was there as an activist, but I was also there as someone who needed to learn. Where do you need to learn. And where are you getting your information from? Are you getting it from this little piece of the history book that you were taught? You're like, cool, got the test, nailed the SAT too, boom, got the AP credits, all right. Or are you listening to more of the curriculum? Are you learning more things? Are you asking more questions? Are you recognizing that maybe your comfort isn't the entire education? My friends, I am a work in progress in this department. But I know that the work that I am putting in and the work that you also have been putting in and must continue to put in is going to be in the backs of you listening and being authentically curious to hearing things that may be uncomfortable, to hearing things that may rewrite some things in your brain. So while you are sharing your post and putting things on your stories and smashing the angry emoji on Facebook, also please look into the mirror and think about, what kind of an activist do I want to be? Am I going to be a hashtag activist? Or am I going to start to ask questions, to learn, to rewrite, so that I can have hard conversations with the people in my life that aren't asking themselves the hard questions? This is where it starts. Too long we've gotten comfortable with sharing other people's stories that we never even heard. We have been writing other people's stories that we have never even listened to. Take a minute. Open your ears. And it is never the oppressed job to teach other people about why their oppression matters. But fortunately, there are some individuals out there that are speaking up. And let us listen. That is the only way that we will grow. That is the only way that we will get out of our own way, so that we can be true activists. Say his name, George Floyd. Say his name, George Floyd.